welcome to Cuesta Sports Monthly, an in-depth look at Cuesta athletics. I'm Peter Schuler. On this month's show, we will visit with Cuesta women's soccer coach Bob Wilson and sophomore Emma Theroux. We will also welcome head coach Joe Dansby and all-conference grappler Jace Heryford from wrestling. But just before we go, we'll steal a few moments with basketball coaches Ron Barba and Rusty Blair as they get ready for their 2017-18 season. Right now, here on Cuesta Sports Monthly, it's women's soccer with Coach Bob Wilson and his sophomore Emma Theroux. Welcome, Emma. Welcome, Bob, to Cuesta Sports Monthly. Season just wrapped up last week. So just want to see how you thought this season went along there, Bob.
Well, we had a little struggles. We, had games where we only had about 13, 14 players, so it was pretty tough. But started strong, and then we always struggle with getting enough, players on the team. So when we get a bunch of injuries, then we have to just sort of suffer through what we can get done.
Yeah, it seemed like there's a lot of attrition this year. You start off small, got to a big team, and then went down again. Emma, you've went through this is your third year of the program. You redshirted last year. What was it like coming back for this year?
It was different. A lot of the people that I played with my first year had already left, and the people who kept me going and inspired me, they unfortunately moved on to a different school. So it was my time to kind of push through. And whenever Bob's coaching, that's why I'm playing. He's an amazing coach, and we all really enjoy being around him.
Now, one of the things, as someone who's been in the program, and you talked about the other players who had inspired you when you were a younger player, was that kind of a role that you had to take on this season?
Yeah, of course. There were three girls that really kept me going. It was Alyssa Goodman, Brooke Canepa, and Victoria Gracie. They were the captains and my predecessors before, so it was definitely a big shoe to fill, but it was nice having them growing up.
Now, as a sophomore this year, you kind of got the season off right for the Cougars this year. You scored the season's first goal. What was it like coming back after a year off and being able to get the teams going that way?
It was really great. It was a nice way to start off, so I was pretty happy about that.
You kind of established yourself with the young kids right away.
Yeah.
Now, Bob, one of the challenges you have, as always, as all coaches here at Cuesta College, is kind of getting the teams together. What are some of the things that you've done over the years to kind of help build the team?
Well, this year we really tried to target the local players. At the last 20 years that we've had this program, we've only had 5 or 6 local players on the team, and this year we had 16, which was good and bad because with the out-of-town players, they actually bond faster. The local players, they come in and then they leave and go home, so they don't bond as fast. So that was something we didn't quite understand this year.
Is that some of those high school rivalries that they might have had before, the high school connection?
Not so much that, it's just that when the kids come from out of town, they're like, what are you doing tonight? Well, nothing, let's all go hang out. When they're local, they all go home to their houses. So it's actually been something we hadn't really anticipated. We got to kind of play a little better next year when we get more local kids.
Okay. Emma, you came from up in the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like for you coming in here as 3 years ago as a freshman, and how have you helped some of those other kids adjust over?
Our team bonding was definitely a lot larger in numbers because, again, people were more willing to open up their friendships with other people. They weren't already established and comfortable yet, so it was definitely different. We just go to the beach, we try and make dinners together. That's kind of our way of forming a connection, I guess.
You kind of give the younger kids a little bit of the ropes, like, okay, farmers market, this is farmers
market.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
These are good beaches to go to. Is that kind of a role you played this year?
Yeah, that was our social role, but on the field, it's definitely more different than anything.
Now, we talked about a little bit. You're a smaller athlete out there, but what was it that drew you to soccer, and what were some of those advantages of being, smaller, quicker, or rather than a larger athlete?
Yeah, I'd definitely say I'm hopefully quicker than some others, but
she's one of the toughest players on the field, so there's that.
Oh, I absolutely have. I have seen Emma take her hits and be out there scrapping with everybody out there. So always exciting to watch you out there.
Thank you.
So, but why did you decide soccer rather than?
Definitely came from my cousins growing up. I had one of my family members played for Santa Clara, so that was definitely where I got that inspiration from.
Now, Bob, you were a baseball player here at Cuesta College. So what was it a quick break, or were you a soccer player all the way through? What got you into that? I've never asked that question. I thought after all these years I should ask that one.
I was a high school soccer player, junior high school soccer player. Matter of fact, my mentor in soccer is a guy named Brian Coulter, who's not got long to live left with ALS. And he's the one that kept getting me in the game. He got me coaching when I got out of school, but he got me playing in junior high and high school and elementary. I was a goalie in soccer. In high school, I was on the varsity team as a sophomore in high school. Baseball is probably where I was the most skilled, and baseball is boring to coach to me. Soccer is fun and exciting to coach to me. It's fun to coach soccer. Even every practice is fun. Baseball it's too slow for me to coach. I love it, to play, but I don't like coaching it.
Now, when you were here at Cuesta, would it have been better if we don't have a men's soccer team now? You started the women's team. You were the first coach of the program.
Right.
What do you think about that? Maybe a men's team or something like that. There always seems to be talk, but
well, we have a very good club situation right now. This is the first year we've had many kids on the club program, so it's kind of sad we don't have a men's team, and it would be nice to get it. It's the Title IX issues, but we have enough quality players here to have a good men's team.
Now, you did coach boys in high school. What are some of the differences you've seen going from the high school to the college level, the changes?
Mostly
adjustments you have to make?
The boys can kind of get on each other's case, and it's not taking such offense, but the girls get on each other, then the other girls get, it ends up being a pretty sore heel you got to fix often. And that kind of reared its head this year, gave us some issues. But guys can fight with each other and then go play together. Yeah. Girls have a harder time doing that, so that's a big difference. And the other thing is fitness. The girls at this level don't often come in fit.
Yeah.
The guys will be fit because they're playing all the time. A lot of the girls won't, and then they're kind of expecting you to get them fit, but you almost don't have the time to. So
I think that's kind of one of those issues that ends up being the injuries, but also it's one of those things where high school ends, and I'll get to deal with college when I arrive there 3 months later.
Right.
Now, Emma, as like we talked about your role there as a sophomore, now some of the things that getting those groups together, you talked about what you guys did. Do you ever have to kind of just sit the team down and kind of, lay down the law a little bit?
We did a couple times this year, and it was definitely helpful. I think it was just a clash of two different people, and we just needed to figure it out, but it was okay. Yeah.
Now, you've finished up your third year at Cuesta, and your plans for next year? Are you going to try and play soccer, move on, or just going on academically?
We'll see. I would love to for UC Davis, but yeah, we'll see.
All right, Bob. Now, getting ready for next year. I mean, are you starting now? We're talking about recruiting local kids. You're going to be out there scouting?
Yes, going to the high school games. Mostly it's getting your schedule for next year. You're getting hounded by the other coaches, trying to set that up. We really targeted the locals last year. I'm going to do the same this year.
What are some of the reasons you'd like to tell some of the people why they should come play at Cuesta College?
They need to come play at Cuesta so they can enjoy the game. Sometimes at the 4-year level, it's a more of a work level. You come here to enjoy the game, to love the game, enjoy the players, have more fun. And my target is to get you to have a quality experience on this campus with the game, and not necessarily worry about where it's going. Enjoy this season now. That's what we work for.
Thank you very much, Bob. That's great. Well said. Thank you very much, Emma, for joining us here at Cuesta College on Cuesta Sports Monthly. So that does it right now for Cuesta Sports Monthly. I'd like to thank Coach Bob Wilson and Emma Theroux. Joining us next on Cuesta Sports Monthly, we'll talk to wrestling with Coach Joe Dansby and Jace Heryford when Cuesta Sports Monthly returns.
This program is produced by Cuesta Broadcasting. Start your radio, TV, and film career at Cuesta College.
We're back on campus with Cuesta Sports Monthly. I'm Peter Schuler, and right now we're back on the mats with Coach Joe Dansby and his all-conference wrestler, Jace Heryford. So welcome, Coach Joe Dansby, Jace Heryford. Welcome to Cuesta Sports Monthly. You guys are getting in towards the end of the season. You got the Brawl down in East LA, and then on to the postseason. So, Joe, talk a little bit about how the season's progressed for you this year and where you guys think you're heading.
Well, this year we gelled really quickly, the team, which was nice. We have a lot of local kids, which we haven't had in a while. So I mean, the kids I was really surprised that they being from different high schools locally that they gelled so quickly. They're getting along, and that's like half of the battle and as a coach. But I believe we're heading in the right direction. We're knocking on the door, and we're going to be trying to jump in that top 10.
Now, you kind of have a younger group, but Jace, you're one of the few sophomores in the lineup.
The only one.
Yeah, at this point, yeah, the only one. So what has that kind of been for you? We talk about some of the local kids, so they're comfortable here in San Luis Obispo, but what is kind of your role in the room helping these kids along?
I think just kind of passing on just the dedication and the attitude you need to keep in the room and not like slacking off and getting on to different subjects and kind of sticking to the mat.
So is that kind of your thing? They come in, you kind of help set the tone for a coach? Or
Yeah, definitely.
Or is Joe on his own on that one?
No, definitely. A lot of guys are like shooting basketballs, messing around before practice, so we got to get everyone lined up and get their shoes on, start jogging before coach gets in there.
Now, for you, you had a pretty successful freshman year. You started off red hot this year, winning a lot of your bouts. But kind of where do you think you talk about your development here at Cuesta College under Coach Joe Dansby and how you?
When I first came in, I don't know, I always wrestled since I was little, but a lot of the stuff I did was just kind of natural, and with the help of a lot of the guys in the room and coach, just like helped me fine tune a lot of stuff, just little techniques and little keys to success pretty much.
Now, Joe, your program has been coming along. You've always been right up there in the top 10 in the state almost every year, knocking on the door for a state championship a few years back. Yeah. What are some of the things that you bring, you think for your team coming into this year? What was some of the things you were looking at? You had a young group. How does your focus change as a coach on that?
Well, with a young group, I mean, Jace being the only returner in there, we definitely need somebody to kind of run the room and just get things flowing. But you know, just thinking about trying to drive these kids to foresee more than, hey, what's happening today and tomorrow? What do we want to do in the future? That's I think the goal is like, hey, we're kind of making a 2-year stand right now instead of just this year only. We're always looking, hey, what are we going to do in the next 2 years? We can be a very powerful team in the next couple of years with a lot of freshmen that we have. So
it's kind of one of those things, like you would on the mat. What you think a move ahead? Kind of set yourself up. You kind of do the same thing as a coaching.
Yeah, I mean, not even a move ahead. We're thinking, you know, hey, we're trying to what's preparing for my next opponent, this one, and then the next one, and down the line through the whole tournament. You know, we're forecasting. We could do something really special, I think, next year. So. I know we're biting it off a little bit of time this year, but I want them to see the vision at the end. Additionally,
the vision Cuesta.
The vision Cuesta. The mantra, yes, the vision Cuesta.
Now, Jason, you talked about you played a lot of other sports. What was it that actually drew you into wrestling at the collegiate level?
I think just a lot of like the little coaching decisions with like that goes along with baseball and football. It's kind of a judgment decision whether you're going to play or not, and with wrestling, it's kind of up to you. You're the only person on the mat, so you can't really take anything away from somebody that's putting out there and succeeding. So
yeah, it's kind of, talk about that. It's kind of like that's one of the things I think is most appealing to watch for wrestling is there's nobody to help you. You are on your own.
Yeah.
No matter what coach is saying from the sideline. So talk about how that is. That mentality of just it's you and nobody else really.
Mm-hmm. You're on like a little island. You're pretty much just you in your head, and that's like a lot of the battle is just being in your head, trying to clear everything and just know what you need to do and know what you've done in the room has prepared you for this match or this tournament. Yeah.
So when you go step out on the mat and you go up there and you shake your opponent's hand, Are you thinking about who he is, or is he just something to work against?
Yeah, I don't like to know or think too much about my opponent. I just kind of just clear my head and just play some loud music and just kind of get into my zone.
Now, there's always sometimes there's kind of a couple schools of thought. There's the guys who are stand-up wrestlers, or the leggers, but when you get into the ring, are you looking are you going to impose your will? Are you going to be attacking on him, or are you going to be more kind of waiting for him to make a mistake and kind of feeling him out for soft spots?
It just kind of depends where we're at in the match, but definitely in the beginning of the match, I like to impose my will first and just kind of give him like a stance of where I stand and not kind of be skittish, let him know that I'm there and I'm not really going anywhere. So, yeah. That's
great. Now, Joe, the team is coming together this year. What are some of the things as we come into the state championships? Are just a few weeks away. You have one more tournament before the postseason. Where do you is wrestling fitting right now? And where do you guys are fitting in that wrestling world? We talk about kind of our annual state of the wrestling world in community college.
You're talking about our team, or
both team and in the wider spectrum.
As far as our team goes, right now we're trying to fit our puzzle pieces where they need to be for our best shot at bringing as many guys as we can to the state championship, and that may be, which is tough, that may be manipulating some of the weights and bringing some guys up or pulling a guy down a weight. It's very tough at this point of the season to say, hey, we're a team, and now we're not, we can't bring the whole team anymore. We have to cut it down, and that's a difficult spot for me. And we're going to use this tournament, the Brawl, this next weekend, and some things that have been happening in the room to get us down to the top 12 guys that we want to bring.
Yeah. Now, in wrestling right now, you guys are always in the close range right there, up in the top 10 we talk about, but it's smaller numbers in the state, but we're always trying to grow. Yeah. How is the state of wrestling in community college at this point?
It seems pretty good. Right now we have Moore Park just added, so that's an additional team. It's always nice when we're adding teams rather than subtracting teams. And then women are growing huge, and there's always that push to try to get women's wrestling going. It's probably the biggest growing sport in high school right now. There's definitely a lot of local teams with girls or women's programs right now.
Do you see that sport evolving into an independent sport, or do you think it's going to stay within that just
I definitely think it's going to evolve now in the junior college world. That's the difficult, because we're looking at questions like who's going to coach, where are they going to be, what kind of season are they going to have, and then finances, of course, and those are questions that are a little bit more difficult to answer on the school's end. But as far as it wanting to happen and the interest, it's there.
Now, you've had a lot of success with the women who have come out and played and wrestled for you, but I'll kind of leave this one up to both Jace, who's coming from up in Sutter Creek, and talk about what are the reasons for some athletes come to wrestle for you at Cuesta College, or with you at Cuesta College?
I think just the area brings a lot of kids in, just a relaxed feel of just Central California, and then just the athletics kind of come along with it, and obviously the expertise of Coach Joe Dansby. It kind of definitely brings in some people.
Yeah. Definitely, it's a beautiful area. We sell the beauty. Obviously, it's a safe area, and we get some quality coaching.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach Joe Dansby. Jace Heryford, good luck to all the rest of the way through the season. That does it for wrestling here on Cuesta Sports Monthly. When we come back, we'll be hitting the hardwood with basketball coaches Rusty Blair and Ron Barba. That coming up next on Cuesta Sports Monthly.
Cuesta.edu. Television, radio, broadcast, communication. Explore the world of digital communication and tap into your creative genius. Television, radio, broadcast, communication.
This is your boy, the DUI, and you're listening to KGUR.org.
Your digital future is at Cuesta College right now. Log on to cuesta.edu now for enrollment dates and class information.
Don't get the boom in this shot.
Blown it, bro.
Cuesta.edu.
We're back with more Cuesta Sports Monthly, and it's time to talk about Cuesta Hoops with basketball coaches Rusty Blair and Ron Barba. Welcome, Rusty and Ron, to Cuesta Sports Monthly. Season's just starting to get underway, coming up the next couple weeks. And Rusty, you've already got a few games under your belt. How's the team looking this season?
We do have tremendous potential, but we lack height, so we're going to have to do some things to counteract that. It appears from last weekend, it's running scramble defenses the last 10 minutes appears to be our catchphrase, so to speak. But we do have some really shooting talent, both international and U.S. mix, and we're pretty excited about the season.
Now you have two kids back this year. You have team MVP from last year,
yes.
Noah Saunders.
Yep.
He's having a good start so far, and then Nick Gapsch. How are those two guys doing working with the new guys coming in?
Fine, but they're we seem to have the injury bug, and those guys have both been on the shelf for a while. They're just coming off of that, so that puts them back, several weeks as far as developmentally. But they're working fine with the international guys, no problem at all.
All right. Now, Ron, talk about the injury bug. We've had a little bit of that with the women's team so far.
Right.
You guys kind of putting it all together, getting ready for not only hopefully San Diego this week, but then the home tournament. So what are you guys looking for at right now?
I think the biggest thing right now is, obviously we're trying to get healthy. We started out this year with 13 players, and we were going down the list last night with our other assistant coaches, and we can't believe we lost 12 kids at some point.
Wow.
Out of the 13. And out of those 12, 6 of them will not be returning as their season-ending injuries. So we've had a lot of in and outs, and I think that's the hardest thing for a player is to get that chemistry with people you don't know. I would say at the beginning, the 13 we had, it looked like a really promising year for us. But, the group we got is still working. They haven't given up, and, it's just, I think it's the uncertainty that bugs players. They want to play. We've had to push 2 tournaments back. And we're trying to get down to San Diego this weekend. We'll only take 6 or 7 players. Yeah. So, but they want to play and bless their hearts. That's what you're hoping to see.
Yeah, they always talk about the team chemistry. They always talk about basketball as jazz. Now it's kind of like it's a impromptu night or a jam session at a bar or something like that. It's not quite as smooth as you'd like it to be.
Right. We have a couple of really nice kids that came in that they would have blended in really good with our sophomores. The unfortunate thing, we don't even have a sophomore out there right now. We have my daughter and Deja, they got injured a few weeks ago, and they haven't been in the mix, and the other ones were injured right away, so they're gone.
Now, you do have a couple of people maybe coming back? Is that
yeah, we have a possible
people who have been with the program.
Yeah, we have a few that potentially in December we could end up with 9-10 players, which hopefully give us a few weeks, and maybe when league starts we might be a surprise. Might be a laughing thing there prior to it, but just to the adjusting part. But we have a great little point guard out of Rigetti High School that just plays with fire. And Maya Armenta did a great job for Rigetti. I had her when she was little in club, and seen her at Rigetti a number of years when my daughter played, and we felt really good with her. We felt she could be one of the stronger point guards in the conference. Also, we got a girl out of the Sacramento area up there, Dakota Shin, who's got good size. She's a rebounder and scorer.
So you're talking about that. You have a couple of multi-sport players. You haven't had Dakota in the fall.
Right.
She's been playing volleyball. Then you also have another point guard coming in.
Right.
Out of water polo.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so you see, we do have some mixtures, and I think that's what JC's kind of all about, because you do get a mix of players that play 3 sports or 2 sports, and I think as the head coach that has them first, it's great. The coach that's waiting on them is always like, when am I going to get them? And, that's just the way it is, and you got to go with it.
Yeah. Now, talk about your diversity of players coming from different places like that. You have a large group, a lot more domestic players this year, but you also have an international group. It seems to have a little bit going from either side of the hemisphere. You have a few Spaniards and a few Australians. So kind of how's that working out with you culturally, language-wise? It seems to be something you've kind of incorporated into your coaching style.
It's been no problem whatsoever. In fact, we are looking forward to working with these international kids because not only are they good basketball players, they're good citizens, and they're great students in the classroom. As noted by the Scholar Athlete Team award winning we've had, some of these kids are speaking their 4th or 5th language and really putting up the numbers in the classroom. So we're glad to have the international kids. We'd wish that we had more local kids. We do have a local kid from Paso Robles on the roster this year. And yeah, it makes it easier for us having somebody living at home, transporting in their own car rather than mass transit in the buses every day. But it's been something that since we've started this process of internationals that we've been very successful with, and we intend to continue.
So recruiting. Now, how many of these players? I mean, we've always had Spanish. You've had some Spanish players here and there. You've had, you know, a Belgian kid here or there. How much of this is recruiting from your former players coming out, or the word of mouth that Cuesta is a kind of a good location if you want to have an opportunity to play community?
I'll say some references in. Most of us are kids that are just reaching out, contacting schools, and when they find out that we did have past international players, kind of like we're the labeled international junior college in America, that somewhat is attractive to them. The area is attractive to San Luis Obispo. The parents do a lot of research on it, and generally just before the start of the school year, the parents make the flight over with them to bring them over. So it's kind of a win-win situation with the parents knowing that they're in a safe community, a nice community, and they're surrounded by other internationals, mainly from the European area.
Yeah, we talk about that. Cuesta College is such a destination community college. I mean, so many people would just go on to that local community college, but a lot of people will take the time, the effort to research San Luis Obispo. Right. And you know, Ron, is that one of those things when because again, you don't have a lot of international kids this year, but you have in the past. And so what do you tell kids when they want to come to Cuesta College?
Obviously, we want them to come to get the education and obviously come to a great area, as well as get a good opportunity to move up to another level in basketball. I think this is a great community, friendly college town. I think you can't go wrong with the environment that's around here, and kids fall in love with the area. I know one of the girls that was playing with us, she's from up north, and she loves it here. It's like to the beach, hiking, riding a bike. I mean, there's just so much for them to do, but I think they're attracted to a lot of things here, and hopefully, you know, we do a good job of prepping them to want to get to go play at the next level as well.
Yeah. A little bit more elbow room than some other towns, and I think that's probably, especially as an international, there's one bus coming out here. There's not 4 or 5 different routes, and it's a pretty uncomplicated place for them to land in a new area. Right. So that's always great. You know, talk about success with placement and stuff like that. What kind of would you consider your identity for your program? Why would you want a kid to come here?
Well, number one, it's like Rusty said, last year we had an academic group that was over 3.0 or 3.4 or something, and one of the things we want to make sure we take pride in is the academic side of this, because if a kid does well and the team does well, we look good. Plus, it opens the door for them to go to a college and get a little more money from the academic side.
Yeah. So basketball, scholar athletes are always important here at Cuesta College. So we'd like to thank Coach Ron Barba and Coach Rusty Blair. As basketball season gets underway, we'll hopefully talk to you again in the spring. But once again, Coach Blair, Coach Barba, as basketball heads into their 2017-18 season, thank you very much. That's it for today on Cuesta Sports Monthly. I'd like to thank our guests, Bob Wilson, Emma Theroux, Coach Blair, Coach Barba, and we'll see you next time on Cuesta Sports Monthly.